Thank you so much for tuning in to Conversations with Dee. I have the special guest, the legendary Christine Swanson. She is a director, an educator, a screenwriter, a producer, and of course, a filmmaker. And she was raised in Detroit, Michigan. And she graduated from Shrine Catholic High School, matriculated at the prestigious NYU Tisch School of Arts, where she earned an MFA in film and earned her Bachelor of Arts degree from Notre Dame, the University of Notre Dame. She has an award for the best TV movie from the African American Film Critics Association and Seattle TV Award for the Clark Sisters. The Satellite TV Award for the Clark Sisters and the First Ladies of Gospel. She has multiple NAACP Image nominations in categories for Outstanding Independent Motion Picture, Short Film, Outstanding Short Film, Directing TV and TV Motion Picture. She also is the 2006 recipient of the Reverend Arthur S. Harvey Award for Achievements in the Arts. And she also is a recipient of the Willard T.C. Johnson Fellow Award for her work. She has also developed and written and directed projects for major studios and networks, including HBO Films, Lionsgate, Universal Television, Warner Brothers Television, CBS TV Studios, BET Films, Stars TV One, which include Albany Road, All About You, Woman Art Thou Loose, All About Us, For the Love of Ruth, To Hell and Back, Black Korea, Fanny, 6 Weeks, 2 Seasons, The Wayman Tisdale Story, and biopics, The Clark Sisters, The First Ladies of Gospel, Love Under New Management, The Mickey Howard Story, and television shows, episodes of Sweet Magnolias, Bel Air, Found, All American, Homecoming, and All American, Roswell, New Mexico, P-Valley, MacGyver, FBI, Chicago PD, First Time Fans, and many more. She had the great opportunity to direct the late legendary Miss Ruby Dee and Lou Mayers, living legends Ingenue, Ellis, Shalea, Morgan Freeman, Debbie Allen, Vanessa Bell Calloway, Ernie Hudson, Gary Durden, Kimberly Elise, Teron Brooks, Renee Elise Goldsberry, Loretta Devine, Debbie Morgan, Boris Kojo, Ryan Michelle Bath, Dave Kaz, Wayman Tisdale, Michael Jordan, Marcus Miller, Jonathan Butler, Clifton Powell, Bishop T.D. Jakes, Darius McCrary, Tiana Paris, Lisa Ray, Jason Weaver, and many more in TV film. She has 28 years in the industry. Christine's production company is called Faith Film Works, and she and her husband has produced award-winning and commercially successful projects. She is on the board of trustees for St. Mary's College in Notre Dame, an advisor to the film and TV department of Notre Dame, served as professor at UGA for the MFA screenwriting program. And again, she was raised in Detroit. She spent her first 6 years in South Korea and briefly in Florida. She moved there with her father, and her grandmother and great aunt helped raise her. And I chose her because I'm compelled with her work. And thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. She's the epitome of Black excellence. She really has done a lot of things, and I feel like it's very important for people to know about people in the community and to understand the work that they have done and to be aware of it and to also celebrate people while they are here in the flesh. So thank you, Christine, for joining us.
Glad to be here.
So I researched that you initially started off as a finance major. And I read up about that, and the individual that introduced you to the world of film was the legendary Spike Lee, which inspired you to pursue a career after hearing him speak about his breakthrough, Do the Right Thing. And I thought that was interesting. And it takes a lot of courage to step out on faith and do things that are out of our comfort zone. And that's definitely something that us Michiganders do. I definitely can agree with that. You were recognized by CNN as one of the most promising filmmakers to emerge from NYU's Tisch School of Arts, placing you as the company of legends like Martin Scorsese's and Spike Lee. That is amazing to be celebrated and recognized. Within 3 decades in the industry, Christine has directed, produced powerful films such as The Clark Sisters and The Mickey Howard Story. What was the most rewarding part of bringing these stories to life, Christine?
Well, with those particular films, because they were music biopics about people who are still living, it was really important to make sure that they felt seen. So, as well as making sure the story connected with audiences, because that's ultimately what you want to aim for, is that somehow the movie, the story, the revealing of these real life people somehow was worth all the effort, and that people who watch it learn something, feel something, and connect with the storytelling. That was probably the aim and the most fulfilling part of making those particular stories.
And that's excellent because honestly, growing up in Michigan, I heard about the Clark sisters, but I never seen them in concert, and I got opportunity to go do that. And like that movie made me want to see them more. Like literally seeing that story and just hearing the people that played them sing, and the excellent job that you and Camille and Sylvia did, literally, in terms of putting that out there. It made people really connect with the film. So you continue to bring compelling stories to the screen. How do you choose the projects that you work on?
Um, I would say the projects choose me. Um, I was hired to do like the Mickey Howard Story by a network, as well as the Clark sisters. But certain independent projects, like the movie that is currently out on VOD, that was nominated for 2 Image Awards, is Albany Road, and I chose to make that film at this particular uh, juncture in my life, because it was just time to be creative with a story that I thought the world needed, and not that just because I think the world needs a story that I think it should get made, but you certainly have to have that kind of um, unction to even want to try. So I often just pray, meditate, and see what God puts on my heart. And then oftentimes it's really what door opens. So that's why I say the stories choose me, because there's so many things that come into play when you do a movie project, particularly. So that all the ducks have to be in a row. And a lot of that I don't control. Some of it I control. So if everything comes into alignment, I'm like, oh, maybe I move in that direction.
That's great to know because you hear some of everything from people, so that's great to know that you have earned multiple NAACP Image Awards award nominations, reflecting the impact of your work. What has been the biggest challenge in your career, and how did you overcome it?
Hmm. Well, maybe the biggest challenge is on the film side, it's always about raising the financing. And then once you do it, it's not challenging. So I a challenge is only a challenge until you jump over that hurdle. But I feel like things kind of shift over time, and it's what are the stories that are being told, and what are the stories that are being greenlit, what are the stories that are being financed. And I feel like that's a narrative that a lot of filmmakers don't get to control, because realistically it's a business, right? It's an
Mhm.
industry that creates content to make a profit. So there's that side of it that you have to be mindful of, if you're invested in it in a financial way.
Mhm.
But there's another side of it where it's purely from an artistry perspective. And if money wasn't an issue, like what would those stories look like? Like whose stories would we explore, and whose stories would get promoted and amplified? So that not being able to choose that is unfortunate, but being able to focus on something that means something to you also means waiting it out no matter how long it takes. So it's meeting the it's like it's meeting the challenge
Mhm.
with great optimism and vision to work around it and get to the other side of it. So things are hard, and yet the challenges push you to think outside of the box and think outside of your own limitations, and then pushes you to see where you can go. So all of that is intricately tied, and ultimately what we said in the Clark sisters movie is God has the final say.
Amen. Amen. As a Black woman in Hollywood, Christine has paved the way for diverse voices in an industry that is male dominated and lacks representation at times. What challenges have you faced in terms? Well, how have you navigated through those challenges of being a black woman and being a woman and also being biracial and though what have you what challenges have you faced in those arenas?
Well, there's always going to be bias, like whatever field that you're in. And
Mhm.
and there's a typical kind of unfortunate scenarios where when women often have to just prove themselves before they're given the benefit of the doubt. Conversely, maybe white men get to fail forward and nobody questions their competence ever. You know, I I look at this point. I think in my experience,
Mhm.
um, I don't show up on set in my uh, black womanness or my gender. Now, I'm never like backing down from what I am. It's just I just look at what the task at hand is and I just attack it, right? Like especially when I direct television, like I ain't thinking about what people think about me, you know? I'm just like, where's the script? Having studied the show, what's the ask? What am I going to bring to the table? And then let's execute. And in the executing, if people are sitting there trying to figure out what this black woman, this biracial woman is who does she think she is, whatever, that's really not my problem. That's their so 10 times out of 10, I get it to the finish line and nobody ever questions my gender, my race, my biracialness. Most times they're high fiving me on doing a job well done. And that's the goal. So, yes, there are challenges. Yeah. Yes, there's inequity. Yes, there are biases. But I feel like black women, like, it's like we deal with this all the time. and still re-rise. So the
Mhm.
mindset to start with is not what are the hurdles, but how am I going to rise to the occasion in a way to service the vision of the storytelling, and then getting onto the other side of success. So it's a little Jedi mind trick kind of thing, but most times that's the goal. And the parts that deal with other people's problems, I've learned over time that you just can't control that. So might as well just move forward in excellence.
And that's an awesome perspective to have, like from that avenue, because like many times people really do not go into it that way, and that can kind of mess up the creative, because if you go in there being positive, you're gonna do what you need to do. But if you go in there like with this, oh, they're gonna hate me, they're not gonna like me, oh, it's gonna mess up things. So yeah, that's an awesome perspective.
You can be positive and still have a bunch of problems. Um,
Hmm.
the goal is to be a fluid problem solver and face them in the best way that you can, aiming for a great outcome. So it's not that we're not dealing with problems, because
Hmm.
they will come. It's
Hmm.
that we deal with them with a sense of uh, confidence
Hmm.
that the solutions are there, and my job is to lead us
Hmm.
to them.
Gotcha. Your work contributes to grow, pushing for inclusivity in film and television. Have you seen progress in diversity inclusion in the industry since you started? And what's your advice to Black women who aspire to get in this area?
Well, I've absolutely seen progress in terms of inclusivity. Look at there's a lot of TV shows now with us in them. We're seeing a lot of movies come
Hmm.
out with us in them. What's where there's a lack of inclusivity is really elevated storytelling with us in them. So it's not the lack of content. I think it's the
Hmm.
lack of nuanced content. But even in
Mm.
that arena, there are shows that we can point to and movies that we can point to and say that's excellent. So yes, I do see more and more content that includes us in elevated ways. But I think we can always do better, and we can always do more. You know.
Definitely. So you have collaborated with some of the biggest names, from Angela Bassett and Queen Latifah to Ingenue Ellis. What do you look for in an actor, an actress, and how do you bring out their best performance?
Well, I've yet to work with Angela Bassett, but let's put that in the to-do list for the future. And
Mhm.
then Queen Latifah was an executive producer on
Mhm.
Clark Sisters.
Mhm.
So I never directed her as an actor, but she
Okay.
really was formidable in terms of helping to get the movie greenlit and marketed to the masses. So she's kind of really awesome in that arena. Ingenue Ellis is easily one of the best actors of her generation living.
Mhm.
Um, this period. And working with her is like driving a Ferrari on the freeway, and it's at once exhilarating and dangerous, but dangerous in the good ways, where you're trying things that are not planned,
Mhm.
but let's see where it goes. It's really working with somebody of that caliber is really the height of narrative creativity. And so there's no telling like where that takes you in terms of the excellence of the storytelling. But we have evidence of where it takes you. And in my case, that's what the movie called Clark Sisters. And then I did a short film with her about Fannie Lou Hamer called Fanny. And it's just remarkable work she does all the time.
Yeah, I got into her with the movie Cover, and she did a phenomenal job in that. When I seen her name on, I'm like, wow, she gonna really. I already know she gonna really do some things with this, and so I was impressed even more. You have a distinctive approach to directing actors, helping them deliver powerful, nuanced performances. Do you have a dream cast you'd love to work with on a future project, if any?
It's interesting because I understand the excitement of the question,
Mhm, mhm,
but to me, a dream cast is secondary to the dream script or story. And then once
mhm.
you have the dream script or story, then you get a dream cast in service to the story. So the biggest star that I always want to work with is an awesome script. The story's the star. The story's always the star. So when we start off with that, it depends on what the story is. So I would love to work with um, anybody great that will be in service to the story. So, but sometimes it's not always the famous people. I mean, there are great actors out there that they have the chops, but they don't have the commercial pedigree. And I like taking chances on people that I know can deliver on the goods. So it's really a matter of finding them um and letting them do what they do with my guidance, and let the story shine with their contributions, as well as mine.
And Christine has consistently championed authentic Black storytelling, ensuring that stories are told with the depth and cultural accuracy. Why is it important to tell Black stories from an authentic view?
Well, because if we don't, then we'd be trash.
Agreed.
I don't know how else to tell a story except as authentically as I can and as authentically from my experience as I can. Because authenticity is the other side of the coin where there's truth.
Mhm, mhm.
And always when there's truth in the approach to storytelling, I just think the story has a good chance of being elevated in such a way that it connects deeply with audiences. So that's always the goal because why are we making movies? We're making it to show to people, and we're making it to deposit something into the viewer on the other side of it.
Mhm.
And the amount of work that goes into doing these things, you hope the end result is that it somehow made an impact with people outside of ourselves or the crew and the actors.
Christine has proven her versatility across various genres, from biopics to dramas and romance films. Are there any um, genres you haven't worked in yet but would love to explore?
Yeah, I'd love to do a movie like Jason Bourne. Like,
Mm.
that's kind of in my wheelhouse on a small scale, but I wanna do it on a larger scale, and so maybe that, but there's nothing that I can't do because I love storytelling.
Mhm.
And I love using cinematic tools to tell stories. So it doesn't matter the genre, it doesn't matter the story. If I connect to it in a way that I feel like I can contribute, then I'm on board and it's gonna be awesome because I'm gonna do all the research, I'm gonna do my homework, and then I'm gonna let creativity flow in the way that we do as directors and as filmmakers, and then working in concert and in collaboration with the crew and the actors. I'm always curious to see like, "Oh, how's this gonna turn out?" You don't know. You just push towards, that sweet spot of great storytelling, meets, an audience ready to receive it, you know? So that's always the goal.
Television, movies, and theatrical films offer unique storytelling opportunities, each with its own constraints and creative freedoms. While theatrical films often allow for grander visual storytelling, extending character development, and more immersive cinematic experience, television movies tend to focus on concise, emotionally resonant narratives that engage audiences within a short runtime. How do you approach storytelling differently when working on television films versus theatrical films?
Well, when you're working on movies, you are the world builder. Like you create the world from scratch. I'm um, hiring the production designer, the costume designer. I'm weighing in from day one on what the world looks like and how we're going to build it, who we're going to cast, who's going to do the score, who's going to shoot it. I decide. So the vision starts with me and ends with me. In television, any given show that I show up for, it's the world's already built. I mean, the show could have been in season for 3 seasons. So they've been shooting this for 3 years without me. So I come to a TV show with an understanding that it's my job to understand the world that was built. And I'm telling a story, not from me top down, but from the showrunner, who is the creator of the show and the writer. And my job is to service their vision. And then in servicing their vision, delivering something uh, great and cuttable and emotionally evoking of the what they wrote on the script. And then I hand off a director's cut and I leave, but the showrunner can come in and recut my director's cut. So I don't have control over that part of directing from start to finish. So that's a vast difference between television and films. So filmmaking is a director's medium. Television is a writer's medium. Theater is an actor's medium. You just have to know where you are.
Thank you. Filmmaking, as we know, are both art and a business, requiring directors to balance creative vision with practical industry, with budget limitations, studio expectations, and logistical challenges. Cinematography and lighting are essential tools for setting the tone, the mood, and atmosphere. How do you use cinematography and lighting to enhance storytelling?
Well, it's really, again, those are cinematic tools that can create tone and
Mhm,
and feeling.
mhm,
So if you backtrack it and say this is a movie, not television. Remember, television's already decided what the tone and the visual language is. It's already established well
mhm.
before I get there. So my job is to learn the visual language and jump on board. But with an original film that you create from the start, my job is to work with a cinematographer to create the palette of the storytelling. How are we going to shoot this? What's the look? What are the lenses that we want to approach this storytelling with, and why? Um, and ultimately, like, how is it? How do we? What do we want to evoke from the audience? What do we want them to feel? So that's where lighting comes into play in terms of creating a color palette and a style and a visual language that speaks to whatever thematic elements of the film are. So that's cinematography is a tool to enhance all of that into from the storytelling point of view, so that again the audience can have an experience and make a connection to the offering that we give them called the movie.
Thank you. And my apologies. I read that question out of order. The question for it was, how do you balance creative storytelling with industry demands and budgets? And I'll reread the other part.
Well, it's okay.
Filmmaking. Okay.
Okay, so
My apologies, everybody.
industry demands and budgets. Listen, it's part of the job. Is these are the set this like this is what you're given based on what, meaning whatever the budget is, these are how many days that we can shoot this. These are the actors that we're going to hire, and these are your crew people. Go. It's like your job to make it work on time and on budget. And to the extent that you don't, that's between you and the producers and the financiers. Like if they can keep throwing money on the budget, then keep going. If not, then you have to figure out how to tell that story within the confines of the parameters that have been set up. And I'm like, that's ultimately like a great breeding ground to test your creativity, But mostly it's planning and just being prepared for whatever story requires, given the tools that you have to work with within the budget range that you're allotted.
Thank you. There were some scenes in the Clark sister movie that caught in all of the movies that you've done, but I selected this one that
Mhm.
called for a lot of emotion, as all film script writers and all that, we all know emotion comes out for different scenes. What are your go-to techniques for creating an emotional impact in a scene?
Well, definitely starts on the page. So what is the story requiring? What do the characters want? And how do we create tension and conflict
Mhm.
given everybody's objectives and goals? So as long as we have an understanding of this, the actors have an understanding of this, my job is to help them understand this. So this is what this is about. This is what we're aiming for. They will have thoughts. And, we might have some discussions. We might have some rehearsals. It really depends on the moment, and it depends on the actors. But ultimately, it's really about understanding what the objective of the scene is and how are we going to get there through the performances to achieve, to me, maximal output in terms of what the scene requires. So that's stuff you learn over time and with practice.
A great opening scene sets the tone and draws the audience in, while a strong closing scene ensures the story's impact lingers. What are some of the most important elements in creating a powerful opening or closing scene?
It's really, again, it starts on the page with the script. Like you have to understand like what the
Mhm,
story,
mhm,
what's the story about?
mhm.
So you're thinking through all of this but as you come to decide like what is the opening image? And then how do you want to wrap this up in a way that services the story that's on the page to decide what is the last image, and then what's the last moment that you want the audiences to leave with. So that's all part of the storytelling that starts on the page first, and then through prep and to me, I research and the thought process of what is it that I want the audiences to get from the story will dictate every shot that's in the movie.
So the film Albany Road, that was filmed in Detroit, right? Was it filmed in Detroit or it was it,
That
I'm
was
sorry,
filmed
it wasn't
in
filmed sorry. It was
Champaign,
previewed in Detroit.
Illinois. Yeah.
Gotcha. So the premiere was in Detroit. My apologies, everybody. So, quick question. In your film, you're from Detroit. So Detroit has a rich industrial history mixed with an evolving art scene, right? So how do you capture the unique blend in your films? Do you draw on the cities on wherever you go to film the city? Do you draw on the city's history and visual elements of theme or themes?
Well, I've never shot anything in Detroit, so I wouldn't even know how
Mhm.
to incorporate that into a story unless it requires me shooting it in Detroit.
Mhm.
Most times, again, it starts with the script and what locations the story requires, and that will determine where we shoot, and that will
Mhm.
determine what locations that we need that will service the storytelling. So you start from the script, like inside out, not
Mhm.
outside in. Unless
Okay.
somebody from Detroit's like, here's $5 million, just make a movie about Detroit. Then now that's a different mandate than typically how it works when you start with a script.
Gotcha. So, in terms of Detroit's culture is often described as gritty, resilient, and creative. How do these qualities influence your approach to character development and storytelling in films?
Well, I would say the thing about Detroit that's about gritty, creative, and resilient,
Mhm,
that's kind of the characteristics that describe me. So perhaps, or most definitely, growing up in Detroit, you
mhm,
kind of learn these attributes to survive and to thrive. So all of that's embedded in me as really as a filmmaker. So when I
mhm,
approach directing, then those attributes are actually advantageous on a
mhm.
film set, being gritty, creative, and resilient. So all of that, maybe my upbringing in Detroit informs who I am as a person, and that
Mhm.
informs how I work as a director.
And Detroit is also home to an influential underground music scene. How do you think Detroit's diverse music culture impacts the emotion or energy you aim to evoke in films, in your films?
Well, I'm so a product of the music scene in Detroit, not the new one. I'm old school. So when I was growing up in Detroit in the 80s and 90s, the music that informed me came from Motown, Aretha Franklin, on the gospel scene, the Clark sisters, the Winans, Commission, um, BB and CC, Donnie McClurkin. So to me, all of that you just ingest it, and it just to me it becomes a foundation of your creative skeleton, right? And then if you look in Albany Road, the Albany Road is set to an Aretha Franklin soundtrack. You know, my goal was to pay homage to Aretha Franklin, but the songs that we use really elevate the storytelling in a way that just makes it larger than life. So it's awesome that I was able to incorporate another Detroiter and her creativity into the storytelling directed by a Detroiter.
Growing up in Detroit, you must have experienced this iconic food culture. Coney Island hot dogs, Fago soda, Verner's, Detroit style pizza. How did those unique local flavors influence your storytelling? And do you ever incorporate Detroit's food scene into your films? If you can, I know some things Fago can be purchased some places and Verner's too, but it's kind of hard. Yeah.
Well, when I did the Clark sisters, you actually see Fago,
Mhm.
and I think we mentioned Fago. You see them eating Better Made potato chips. So I did try to
Mhm.
incorporate that into the
Mhm.
Clark sisters because
Mhm.
it did take place in Detroit.
Mhm.
But I'm every time I go back home, I have an aunt and uncle who has a couple bottles of Verner's waiting for me in the refrigerator because I love it, unfortunately, and it's like, you never get tired of it. I miss it. So, I don't get to drink it a lot because you can get it anywhere nowadays, but it doesn't mean it's good for you. So, it's not something I indulge in every day, but when I go back to Detroit, my family members make sure that I have some burners waiting for me.
Detroit is known for its distinct fashion, urban streetwear, motor city influence, and even the vintage looks. How has Detroit's fashion scene influenced your approach to wardrobing choices in films? So, obviously, the Clark sister film. Yeah.
Well, I'm not very fashion forward in a way that I would be mindful of what's happening in the fashion scene, but as it pertains to the Clark sisters and the style and tone and the world of that kind of wardrobe, I
Mhm.
have to give kudos to my costume designer. Her name is Julia Patkos, and she just studied the history and studied the fashion of that era, and then she put her creativity into it, and the rest is magic. I mean, I think the wardrobe in Clark sisters is just worthy of all kinds of awards if that mattered, but it's just excellent. Um, and it really contributed to the deep texture of the movie in a very remarkable and demonstrable way.
And what does your what do you do for your work? How do you deal with the work home life balance as a film creative person,
Um,
a director?
I deal with it just like everybody else deals with it. Every Black woman, we just deal with it. And I don't think I have any kind of special uh, trick that makes me stand out. So I'm just going to say we deal with it because we don't have a. And then
Gotcha.
typically nobody asks men that question. You know that?
Really?
Nobody asks men, how do you deal with work life balance? Never. It's always asked women because the culture and the world understands that women are the
Mm.
mothers and the home
Mhm,
bearers.
mhm, mhm,
So for us to be out in the world working,
mhm.
it's remarkable to people. Like, well, how do you do, your home duties while you're doing this? Nobody ever asks a man that because the assumption is they don't be cleaning nothing at home. Maybe they should. So that's why I'm like, we just handle it. I don't put a spotlight on that answer because I don't have anything special to say. Like you just be lifing.
It's true. Do you prefer more structured scripts or do you allow room for improvisation?
Well,
Improvisation.
it depends. It's a
Improvisation.
time thing and it's a story thing. Does it require improvisation? Will improving help us get to the core of what we need to uncover? So that's one method of extrapolating what the scene means. So I'm open to it. Absolutely. It's just depending on what the story requires.
And how do you make sure a dialogue feels natural and engaging?
That's my job. So if I'm listening to it and it's not natural, then I need to fix it. So it's like it's preference, it's taste, it's experience, and it's tone. Like, what kind of story do you want to tell? So it really comes from your uh, perspective as a director and what your tastes are. So, and they're very different from person to person to person. Like, what I do might be drastically different from what another director does. So um, that's what we attribute to style.
Mhm.
You know.
When you write or develop a script, what are the key elements that you tend to focus on?
So if I'm writing a story like of my own, it's
Mhm.
really there's something compelling in my heart or spirit that I want to say and do. If it's something that somebody's hired me to do, it's really about what is it that they want to convey in this story that I'm charged to write. So it's again, it depends on who is uh, writing the check. If it's me and it's a personal story, I'm always aiming to tell stories that speak to the human condition and speak to grit and resilience.
Gotcha. And what are some, I guess they're always doing redos of movies and TV shows. What would you like to see happen with that in terms of
Mm.
like when they're doing them? Like what they should bring to the table as creatives?
Well, I don't know because I'm not I don't consume it on a scale where I can dictate what a network's programming lineup should be.
Mhm.
I'm I don't tend to watch a lot of network stuff per se. I love directing network shows. I don't consume a lot of it because I'm not the audience for these shows. Um, I'm the creator. I'm the director. I'm the visionary. So I like making things, and then I love sending it out there. I cannot even speak to what I think should be on TV or not. I think there's excellent television happening already. And so sometimes when I can catch it and I'm surprised by it, I love that. So I don't think anybody needs my input as to what the programming should be unless it's my programming and what I want to do.
Mhm.
Then I would say, yes, that should be out there and that should be picked up. So that's
Gotcha.
it. Choose me.
Gotcha. And so, with all of the biopics that us fans and people want or whatnot, like I'll just throw some, like literally one that I would love to see is Vanity. I would love to see that one. I don't know if that's ever gonna happen, but that would be
Well,
nice.
it somebody was making that. So you mean Vanity Prince?
Yeah, Vanity.
Yeah. There's a script out there. I know because I read it. So somebody's trying to make it.
Oh, okay. Oh, that would be cool. And I guess I would like to see some on like the funk music as well,
So
like
here's the thing.
Ohio funk and yeah.
Anybody can want anything.
Mhm.
Question is, do you have the power to get it made and seen? And it seems like most people are passive receivers of what other people decide to make.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm like, doesn't matter what I think should get made unless I make it. We don't really control that, do we?
Yeah.
Unless you go make it. That makes sense?
I mean, what would you like to see made though, if it was up to you?
Everything that I'm doing,
I mean, in
you
terms
know?
of like
Like,
with music and stuff, with music, more music ones.
well, there's a couple things I want to see made, but I'm actually working on them. So it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. I love music
Amen.
icons. I never get tired of like seeing their stories unfold because
Mhm,
it's never what you think it is, you know?
mhm,
So
mhm,
any of our music icons, I'm like, let's go for it, you know? And let's do it in a way
mhm,
that moves the needle as opposed to uh, um as opposed to damaging a genre
mhm,
for
mhm,
the sake of doing it, as you alluded to, like the Leah story, you know?
mhm,
Like,
mhm.
if we're gonna do it, let's just do it well and let's do it with excellence, you know? So if that's the angle, then let's do everybody, but let's do it well and let's do it with excellence, you know?
And
I
that's
didn't
what
see
you
the
did.
Aaliyah story. I'm just saying you said that. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not saying one thing or the other about it, but I'm just saying if we're gonna do you commented that that was
Mhm,
an unfortunate portrayal of a music icon. So maybe how about
mhm.
another Aaliyah movie, but done with respect
And
and
integrity.
honor, integrity, and excellence, you know?
Yeah. I would love to see that happen because, like, literally, you did that with the two biopics that you did. I mean, and I appreciate that. And so I would like to see one on the DeBarge family. I'm a fan of those.
They did it.
Of them.
You know they did a DeBarge movie? Go Google that.
Yeah, but
Now,
that was not, no,
okay,
no.
got it. I'm just saying it was done. So
It has to have those elements you just named.
sure.
If it doesn't have that, I don't want to see that. I want to
Right. But
see,
sometimes you
their
don't know
yeah.
until it's too late. Like after you see it, you're like, what had happened?
They knew that was not right. I'm sorry. They knew that was not right. No, no,
You think?
no.
I don't know.
But yeah, I would like to see, like, literally, I have some hope that you'll do more of them because you get it, you understand it, and that would be great. I mean, like, literally, they can make you the go-to person because you've done it well with those ones that you've done. And that's what we need. Literally, if you're going to tell the stories, tell them right and with respect and honor to the culture, and make people smile and like make people want to go listen to the music, because that's what the Clark sisters biopic did for me. Like, as soon as I seen the movie, I was like, let me go listen to some. Yeah, so that's what it should do. It should increase sales for artists, which that's what the New Edition movie did. I heard their sales went up a lot. A lot came from that. Look at all the residency tours they've been doing. So it's a win. It's a win-win for everybody. So
You're right. You're right. If it's
I would
done
like to see that.
right, if it's done well.
And you could do that. Like, I'm
Oh no,
really
for
putting that
sure.
out
For sure.
there. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to see that because it's so many of them. I would like to see one on. Well, they kind of went away with the Prince one because Netflix, they threw that one away.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough just because estate issues with
Yeah.
him. But actually, he's not. But it's getting the music. So I don't know.
I would like to
That's
see
tricky.
one on Jimi Hendrix too. Another one. Another one. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think they
another
tried
one.
to do one.
Yes, yes. Got it.
Yeah. Yeah. But thank you. Oh, hold on. So everybody make sure you go to IG, YouTube, Faith Film Works, and also the website famefilmworks.com, and stay tuned for what Christine has going on. She has a lot planned, and I like, literally, her work is phenomenal. And my favorite movie is All About You. Like, that's my favorite movie. It comes on TV1 all the time, everybody. So y'all can't say y'all
It
never
still
seen it.
comes on?
Yeah.
It's
Well, when I was watching TV, yeah.
oh
I
yeah.
don't have cable no more, but it came on. Yeah,
Yeah.
it would come on all the time. Yeah.
That's
Yep.
nice.
So make sure y'all support her and go stream Albany Road. Go do
It's
that.
out right now on
Yep.
VOD, on
Mm-hmm.
Amazon,
Yep.
YouTube, Google.
Yep. So that's very exciting. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for being, I mean, awesome and Black excellence, and just like creating these stories and telling the stories that we need to see, and being a part of history and a legacy.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, everybody,
Absolutely.
for tuning
Keep
in.
shining.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Conversations with D. And y'all have a wonderful night. And thank you so much.